Welcome to Decision 2011 for you. I hope you like the little intro there. And we are going to take a look at some graphs, and you're going to have to decide whether you're going to write them as a sine or a cosine equation. Either one will work. I'm going to show you both. And so we're going to start off with an example here. I've got this graph of this sinusoid, and you can see I've got the upper boundary here right up there at 2, and we're going to call that a crest, and then the trough or the lower bound is down here at -12, and we can see that the middle of the graph is -5. Now we could figure out that that was -5 if that's not labeled. You would simply take the bottom plus the top and divide that by 2. That's how you average two things. You add them up and divide by 2. So this would be -10 divided by 2, which is -5. So we could find that middle. We're going to call that the sinusoidal axis. We can find that middle even if it's not labeled. Those are three very important parts here. Okay, let's see. Let's start with the cosine people. If you are a cosine person, you are going to write this as y equals something, something, something with a cosine in it. This first part is going to be the same for everybody. This first part is going to be the sinusoidal axis. The sinusoidal axis is the middle of your graph. That's not going to change. Doesn't matter whether you choose sine or cosine. That's -5 here, and so that's pretty easy to see. And even if that's not there, you should be able to figure it out. From there, we're going to write whether or not you're going to use a positive or negative cosine is going to depend on, do you want to look at a peak or a crest, or do you prefer to look at a trough? If you're going to center your graph around a trough, you're going to call this a negative. If you're going to center your graph around a peak, you're going to call this positive. I am going to pick any of these peaks. It doesn't matter which one, because I like to be a positive cosine one. So I'm going to focus my eyes right here at the 8. And that's where cosine reaches its peak, and so I'm going to call this a positive. And then here I need the amplitude. Before I write my cosine, I need my amplitude. Amplitude is how far up or down you go from the middle. And we can see from the middle to the peak of 2, that is a distance of 7. Then I'm going to write cosine, and then the last part is going to require me to know the period of this graph and also the shift from there. Now the period of this graph is the distance from peak to peak, and that is a distance of 12. Now that's not the number that I put right here. That's the period of this graph. This period is equal to 12. So the number that we put after the cosine, if you remember, we do period equals 2 pi divided by b. So b is 2 pi divided by our period. However, we are not in radians here. We are in degrees. You see the little degree symbol there? Yeah, we're in degrees. So this is also the same thing as 360 divided by b, or we can get b by doing 360 divided by the period. So my number here is going to be 360 divided by 12, and 360 divided by 12 works out to be 30. So that is the number that goes after my cosine. Then I'm going to open parentheses and I'm going to put in the phase shift. Since I'm focusing my eyes right here at 8, that is shifted to the right 8, so I'm going to do x minus 8. Now let's just say that you were a cosine person, but you were still a positive cosine person, but you wanted to focus your eyes right here at the -4. Then your equation would be -5 plus 7 cosine of 30, and then you would have x plus 4 to go left 4. Notice how far apart these numbers are from -8 to 4. They're just one period away, so it doesn't matter. If you were to graph either one of these, you're going to see the same picture. Alternatively, you could have also picked 20, and this would be x minus 20. Now I'm going to talk to those people that might have wanted a negative cosine graph. If you wanted a negative cosine graph, you would focus your eyes at one of these little troughs here. So let's focus our eyes on the trough below the 2. The negative 5 doesn't change for anybody. Neither does the 7. However, if you're going to start a cosine at a trough, you're going to need to call it a negative cosine. So this would be negative 5 minus 7 cosine of 30, and then the phase shift of over 2 would be x minus 2. So I've taken care of a lot of cosine people there. What I'm going to do next is I want to talk to the people that want to be a sine graph person. So let me get my eraser out here and erase all of that. Back to the pen, back to sine people are green. Okay, so anyway, if you're a sine person, you are going to want to focus your eyes at where the graph crosses the sinusoidal axis. This is where you are going to be looking. And it's not clearly labeled here on this graph where that happens, but it's going to happen halfway between 2 and 8. So you would know that this is going to be a 5. Or here this would be an 11. Or here this would be a 17. Okay, so a lot of this is not going to change from previous. You still have a sinusoidal axis or a middle. Did I spell it sinusoid? Oh, not even close. So we're doing a big fat edit on that. You know, news theme, I can edit this. Sinusoidal axis. Sinusoidal axis is still negative 5. The amplitude, the distance we go above and below that, is still 7. Now what you're going to have to decide is, are you a negative cosine or a positive cosine? If you're a positive cosine, you're going to look and see where the graph goes up through the sinusoidal axis. So that can be here at 5, that could be out here at 17, that could be back here at negative 7, wherever. I'm going to look right here at 5. So my equation will be y equals negative 5. Sinusoidal axis doesn't matter whether you're a sine person or a cosine person. Negative 5, and then since we're going to be doing a positive sign going up through the sinusoidal axis, we're going to do plus 7 sine, and the period is going to be pretty much, what did we figure this out to be? From 5 to 11. Sorry, that's not 11. What is that? That is a 17. From 5 to 17, that is a period of, well, looky there. It's the same period. We haven't changed the graph. So we still have the same equation. B is equal to 360 divided by that period, and our number is 30. So I still put a 30 there, and then I just have to decide. I picked right here at this 5. That is 5 units to the right, so that's x minus 5. Look at how these numbers are pretty much the same. The only thing that's different is going to be your horizontal shift, and whether or not you're going to put a plus or a minus sign in front of your amplitude determines whether you're a positive sign or a negative sign. Let's go do a negative sign. A negative sign graph would be somewhere where it goes down through the sinusoidal axis, like it does out here at negative 1. So let's write the equation from there. Sinusoidal axis, still the same. Amplitude, still the same. However, that plus should be a minus since we're going to have it to be a negative sign. So negative sign graph, that number b that comes from the period and dividing the 360, still the same. And then the last thing I have to do here is that shift was a left 1, so that's x plus 1. So are you team cosine or are you team sine? I don't know. Let's do one more example here. Okay, so let's get here and let's look at this. I can't scroll. There. Sorry about the scroll bar here. Let's take a look at question number 5 here. And I am team cosine, so let's do team cosine first. Team cosine. And I'm also a positive team cosine because I'm a positive person. So I'm going to pick one of these two peaks. I'll pick this first one. That's where I'm going to focus my eyes. I'm going to take a look at the middle of this graph. It's not labeled for me. Oh no. So I'm going to have to do negative 38 plus 56 divided by 2 to figure out that middle. Negative 38 plus 56 is 18. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 47 units down, 47 units up. So I have figured out that the sinusoidal axis is 9. My amplitude is how far we go up or down from there. So we go down 47 or up 47, so my amplitude is 47. Okay, then what I need to figure out is what is this period? How far is it from 3 to 23? That is a period of 20. So that means that my B is going to be 360 divided by 20, which works out to be, what? Does anyone know? 36 divided by 2. So isn't this 18? The zeros cancel? Yes, 36 divided by 2 is 18. So my equation is y equals sinusoidal axis, 9, plus amplitude, 47. I'm a cosine man. Cosine. Number B that comes from the period 18, and then shifted over 3. Okay, so what you would need to do if you wanted to be a sine person here is you would need to find out this halfway point from 3 to 23, which again, you add the two numbers and divide by 2. 3 plus 23 is 26, divided by 2 is 13. So that's the number 13. That's halfway through there. And then to get halfway through there to get this sine point, or this sine point, we would do the same thing, add them up and divide by 2, and here would be 18. So if this were a sine graph, let's do a positive sine graph focused around 18 here. Sinusoidal axis is the same. It's a positive sine graph. Amplitude is the same. Sine 18 is the same. The only thing that's different is I'm shifted over 18 units, x minus 18. So, writing equations from graphs, choosing team cosine or team sine, fairly easy. I'll see you guys tomorrow.